Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. Good morning, Austin. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing great, Andrew. How are you doing?
Excellent, excellent. The sun is out. I'm happy. Things are going well. And as all things, we try to break up some of our conversations so that we are giving a bit of extra value and extra insight into markets in general, into what's going on. Sometimes it could be a little bit overload if it's constantly companies coming on and chatting about their projects and their company. And that's great because we want to get that information out. But at the same time, I think just having a good riff about where we're at in the markets and just taking a step back as to, what are we doing? What are we looking at? What does this market look like? I think it's good to have those general conversations, and it's good to the accumulation of knowledge over the course of the years that I've been lucky to gain. And I think we're going to, kind of halo that or highlight that with, one book in particular called The Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds by Charles Mackay or Mackay. This book is a seminal book. It is one that's being encouraged for anyone in the financial markets to read, whether you're at Goldman or JP Morgan or Merrill Lynch or RBC, wherever. It's a very critical book for people to read. I know you've read it, Austin, so you can give me your point of view from someone who's read it. It's been a while since I've read it, although I do love the book. Tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah, it's funny enough. It's something I always try to at least pick up and reflect on the lessons that it tries to teach every once in a while. Even if you don't read the whole book, you go in and pick out a section or two to read through and try to absorb the knowledge that it's trying to tell you. And I think I know we want to tie this into a lot of kind of the crypto mania, especially with Dogecoin right now. So I think the perfect example to talk about is the tulip mania back in was that in the Netherlands or was that in Denmark back in like the 15th century. And essentially the premise of that being that sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, just a little bit of breakup. Yeah, I mean, we missed. It was the Dutch Republic in 1637. It was a big tulip mania. That one is probably the most well-known one. And in that,
yeah, that one and I mean that, essentially with that one, you just get the massive inflation of the price of tulips because that it was believed to be this status thing, right? It was simply something that if you had tulips, if you had access to them, you were in the elite tier, you were in the top brass of society.
Yeah, and it's such a spectacular one because you think a tulip bulb, like literally a tulip bulb, this isn't some sort of euphemism for something else, was going for like the wage of a skilled, like 10 times the wage of a skilled artisan. Now, I mean, I guess depending on today, a skilled artisan would be a master craftsman in woodworking or steelworking or something. So high level red steel trained, laborer. That's a large amount of money for a bulb.
Oh, it's an incredible amount of money to be spending on something that today. I mean, how many people grow tulips in their back gardens?
Yes.
It's much more accessible. It's not something that has that same appeal today as it did back then. So it can be difficult to wrap your head around, but it's such a crucial example into how markets and how the influence of the individual and then of the masses that buy into whatever craze it is can really push and move markets in insane ways.
Yeah, because it highlights the idea of value, and we can look back and that kind of giggle and think, why would anyone pay that for a flower bulb? It doesn't make any sense. Except that if you said, okay, well, there's a massive status symbol here. It's kind of like people that can't afford to, but yet get a brand new pair of sneakers and an iPhone every year. And you say, well, why would you spend your money on that? Well, because you want to signal to others that not only you are part of, but you're in the same quote unquote class as them. Even though, I mean, I hate to use that word class, but you're in the same category as them, as everyone else, or in this upper tier. And you'll do everything to make it seem like you are, even though you may not have that lifestyle. And we can see this today, I mean, on multiple levels. But what I really like is the fact that when we look back in history, and if we just focus, and this touches on political as well as economic, it's easy to see these things repeat over time, all the time. There's nothing new. And we face today, many delusions and hoaxes and and madness that people are not recognizing, despite data and evidence, despite all of the rational, all of any critical thinking. They will ignore it, and they'll get caught up in this group psychology. And I mean, we're not going to get into it because it's a fascinating topic, but crowd psychology on its own is truly fascinating, that you can convince massive numbers of people for whatever reason to believe in things that are simply untrue. And mainly it's because there's an interesting narrative, or there's a feel-good narrative, whether it's the why can't we all just get along kind of thing, or this type of stuff. It's usually something that seems like nice and fun, and why not? But it might go completely against all data and all reference points and all science, but it doesn't matter. It still persists. And today is there's countless of these that are going on. And I made the reference to people just deciding to signal that they have wealth by, if I can just get an entry-level BMW and the new iPhone, that shows people that I have this. And it's unfortunate because we can equate that to a tulip. If I have a tulip in my yard and I can show people that I have this, that means I've made it. If I can have whatever logo of whatever shirt, Prada, Gucci, then I can show people I've made it. So it's not being tough on people. It seems to be a human characteristic that we have. But I think it's imperative for us to talk about that today. I've mentioned it in other presentations I've done over the last years. And I would say for someone, if they're not really interested in this giant book, and it's pretty big, at least read the first 3 chapters or 3 sections, which are a bit smaller, because it will go over a lot of these bubbles.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what it kind of comes back to is, with people, you have the need and the feeling of wanting to belong to something, be involved in a group or an organization or a movement or whatever, and fear of missing out on something big, which I think that's a perfect segue into something like Dogecoin.
Yes.
Is you probably have a bunch of people who, like myself for a long time, who didn't get involved in this crypto thing, who now have this fear of missing out. Like, wait, you've made how much on Bitcoin? Wait, you've made how much on Ethereum? Like, oh my God, well, if Dogecoin's the next one, I got to buy 50,000 Dogecoin because this thing's going to the moon, and then I'm going to retire. I'm going to be 30 years old, and I'm going to retire with me and my stack of Dogecoin.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are the 2 most important things to take away from that and apply to whatever you're looking at today, is that we all have this natural fear of missing out on that, regardless of, you can scale that back to something as simple as, all your friends are going away for the weekend and you've got to stay at home and work. You have that fear of missing out on what's going on out at the cabin, because I'm sure it's going to be a great time. But, and that needing and wanting to belong to a community and an organization or whatever it is that we all have. Everyone has those inner feelings.
And especially with the interconnectedness of things in social media, you can get immediate reactions of like, I'm in. Like, you can get feedback right now, which it can be positive, but can also be tremendously harmful. Because I don't mind going out, and it's not even going out on a limb. Dogecoin is a joke. I mean, it's a meme. It was created as a meme in 2013. And listen, it is a model, because I always harken back to, you have to have a mindset. There has to be a model in place. There is a model that you could just momentum trade and follow the momentum of something and literally just say, I'm going to buy anything that Elon Musk talks about. Now, that's a model. I don't think it's a smart model. It's not terribly ingenious or clever, but over a short period of time, could you have made some money? Model. Yeah, you could have made some money. But that also is mistaking the fact that you've got lucky and you've got immediate feedback with some sort of result as being intelligence or a good model. And I don't want to pick on this person, so I'm not going to mention their name, but this is in an actual article, and this is actually a CEO of a crypto exchange. And this is shocking, but it gives an idea of how even intelligent people and I mean, I'm assuming that this person is an intelligent person, but I don't know this person. Anyways, they say at some point, something is just real. If Dogecoin is stupid and valueless, it shouldn't be worth 90 billion. How about gold or Bitcoin or euros? Or our collective imagination has given them value, and we just think about them having value. So this is a perfect description of a mindset of bubble. That is a bubble. This person here is describing that perfect person that falls for a bubble, because things don't just become real. They don't. Just because something has a dollar value on it, it could still be valueless and worthless. It's kind of like when someone says someone got rich, they must be a genius. No, there's some correlation of intelligence, to a lot of the time, statistically speaking, but you could also just win the lottery. So there isn't any direct correlation with these things. And people mistake that. And they mistake because, oh, I feel pretty good today. That means I'm perfectly healthy. No, if you're not going and taking care of yourself, you may not be healthy. There could be things lurking underneath. You should see a doctor, get checked out. I mean, we make these assumptions all of the time. And if we're not actually thinking critically, you can go out and then, and this is just, and once again, I'm not going to mention the person and I'm not picking on them, but they go on to then talk about comparing it to gold, Bitcoin, and euros, which are completely different things. I mean, even within the crypto space, Dogecoin is not Bitcoin. And I'm a fan of cryptocurrency, so this isn't picking on cryptocurrency. There's value in cryptocurrency, but Dogecoin and Bitcoin are not the same thing, and they're not the same thing as Ethereum. So to even attempt to make that analogy, never mind that fiscally backed, also RB backed euro or gold that every central bank pretty much has been buying, is imagination. I mean, something like gold has $6,000 worth of history behind it. So this is either someone who's just very eager and promoting, a very promotional type of person, like a pump and dump, and they do work for a crypto exchange, so that's kind of their job. They're going to promote what they believe in, but it's dangerous thinking, because for real investors, you have to realize that when you're in a bubble, and yes, you can make money. Like we could have bought Dogecoin and you can make money, but that doesn't mean it has value or that it's right or it's correct. And if you continue with that model moving forward, it's showing up at the casino. You're going to show up and you're going to lose eventually.
Eventually it all comes back and ends up on top of your head with something like this. And that's, it's interesting to see people actually trying to make people believe that this has value. Like I'd much rather, if you were coming out my way, I'm going to push it to people, say, hey, if you want to get involved in Dogecoin, go for it, go nuts, buy some of it. It's a total meme. You're going to end up probably holding the bag at the end of it. But you can have fun with it. You can go for a ride. If you've got a good exit strategy, I'm sure there's a way to make money off it. But trying to create this idea, this delusion that this is actually comparable to any of the examples that you gave is ludicrous.
Yeah. And it's funny because I've had conversations with people all the time wherever I ask them, well, where did you hear that? Or why do you believe that? And if it's even something in history, and once again, when we're talking about this book, Extraordinary Popular Delusions, it's not only psychology, but it's history. It's relaying parts and times in history events have occurred. I'm getting quotes from movies. I'm getting scripts from movies or TV shows. And these are like lawyers, engineers. These are smart people. And I'll say to them, wait a second, you're telling me the plot to XYZ movie. And they're like, yeah, but that was based off true story. I'm like, but that's not real. That's a fiction movie. That's a movie of fiction. That's not real. Have you read anything about that? Have you studied history? Have you read? No. I'd say 99% of the time, someone hasn't put the effort into actually reading critically about any event in the past. So few, but somehow people have amazing opinions on things that maybe they learned in grade 8 in history, which would be fairly inaccurate for the most part as well. But it's fascinating. And I get this every day. So, and this isn't, once again, to be critical of people. It's just people have other lives and they've got families. They've got to worry about the stressors that are going on today. They're being inundated by propaganda nonstop from every level, from every facet of media all day long. They're being inundated. And to tell someone to stop listening, to turn that off, is pretty painful. Although it is interesting that some people can and have kind of woken up while others just can't, or have just kind of conceded. But it's fascinating because you can see in real time today how these things happen, how people just go, listen, I don't need to look at your facts. I don't need to look at the data. The data is wrong. The data is bigoted, or the data is hateful, that type of thing. And you realize there's just some people that prefer a story, they prefer a narrative, and they'll justify it as much as humanly possible. And it can happen socially, politically, and certainly in the markets. Not everyone is rational. It's not rational, and we know as well that it's to some degree since 2008, especially it's fixed. It is fixed to some degree. That's a whole other conversation. But I wanted to have this conversation because it's such an important book to keep in mind. And we're living in a time right now where this is happening, and this might happen for another couple of years. It might be over soon. I don't know. I'm not here to predict the future on that. All I can do is I can look at what's happening, look at the data we have today, and say, and not have to wonder, why is it happening? Who's doing this? Is that here's the facts. And if someone can remove themselves from the emotions and the narrative, and also stop listening to a lot of the noise out there. And I talk about noise all the time. Most of these, I'm not going to say any one broadcast system, but pretty much if it's on TV, it's propaganda of some kind or from another. And unless you're going to do the work of listening to 6 or 7 different ones and then read an article, cross-reference that, and then somehow find out the truth within all of that narrative, which is a lot of work, you're following something you want to believe and you want to hear.
Exactly. And even if it's something that's factual or something that's true, it's being spun to you in a certain way to make you feel or think or have an opinion about it because of that spin that they're putting on it, because of whatever angle it's going to be taken. Yeah, I mean, you can get the same factual information potentially if you watch, an ABC news segment and a Fox news segment, but they're going to be telling you 2 totally different things about it and 2 totally different ways you should feel or look at that situation, even if it is, correct information that they're giving you, which I'll also add in half the time it's not. So
yeah,
it is important to not get caught up in that hype hysteria, and that's why I think
one of my favorite ones.
It is such an important book for people to end up reading and looking at.
One of my favorite examples of that is, and this is a fairly benign one, is that someone will say, "How come you're not reporting this, this, and this?" And then someone can quickly go, who's in the media, and go, "Oh, look, we did report about it, and it's in like the Cleveland Journal on page 48." And this could be a major news story, but news agencies will do that. They'll report it. They're just not promoting it. And often the most ridiculous and absurd thing will be promoted against all of the evidence otherwise. And that's once again, that isn't fake. It isn't not real. It's happening. But unfortunately, you can see the mindset of people that they can't reference their one-on-one interactions and their own daily lifestyle to a large mass of numbers. And they can't understand the difference between those 2 things. Once again, that's a whole other conversation. But it's necessary to have that if you're going to invest. Now, I keep on saying invest because that's different than trading, and it's different than speculation or buying Dogecoin, which, yeah, you might make some money. And even if you recognize this is a bubble and you can make some money, it's still very stressful. When do you get out? I mean, is it too early to jump in right now and make 10%, 20%, 1,000%? Eventually, it doesn't have value. It is utterly worthless. So anyways, there's a lot of those products out there right now that in a couple of years, 2 years, 6 months, people will laugh and go, how did people fall for that? Because we just do. We're human beings.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, for me personally, I can see exactly through the kind of smoke screen on this. So the only way I'm getting a Dogecoin is if they're actually going to give me a physical coin that's got the cute little dog on it. That would be sweet. But I don't know. I haven't heard that they're actually sending those out, and so until they do, I'm out on Dogecoin at least.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Austin. I appreciate you chatting with us. It's such an important book. Check it out. I would encourage it to everyone. I mean, it's a big read, so I don't expect people to read the whole book, but even if you just go through Wikipedia and you pull out Tulip Mania and whatnot, you'll see it's been referenced by so many great writers over the past 100 years. And if nothing else, if you just check out those kind of cheat sheet notes on it, it's tremendously interesting, and you can apply it to, if you're my age, you can look back at the internet bubble, you can look back at 2008, you can see these things. Most people didn't recognize that it was happening, but there was always a small group that was rational and critical thinking and willing to do the work, not listening to the narrative. And even with all of that information lately, people will still ignore. So thank you so much, Austin. I appreciate you being on, and enjoy your day.
No, exactly. Yeah. Hey, my Pleasure, Andrew. Always happy to chat about this stuff. So looking forward to chatting to you again soon. Oh, did we